My guest today is Tracey Yarad, and she is an Australian singer-songwriter, a pianist and seasoned entertainer. She's currently starring in her own one-woman show, All These Pretty Things, which is touring in Australia and the UK. We're going to be delving into her quite mind-blowing story of midlife betrayal that led to where she finds herself now. Welcome, Tracey.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Such a pleasure to be here talking to you.
Now, when I came across you, I was just gobsmacked by what has happened to you. And I applaud your bravery for going out there and telling it to people like me, but to getting up on stage and telling it in your show. So let's start right at the beginning of this show. How did the show come about? Why are you doing what you're doing?
It's kind of like I can't help it. I can't help but do it because writing the music was simply a healing process to sit at my piano and write. And I certainly didn't intend it to become a show. But as I got deeper and deeper into the writing process, I was like, this feels so good to be able to just express myself. And then I started to play some of the songs when I do a gig with my little trio in Australia. And I do a gig, and then before I'd play the song, I'd tell a little bit of a story about it, and people would be like, "What?" and really interested. And then it started to evolve into stories and songs, and it's actually had quite a long life already of, let's say, iterations of getting it to the point where it's now a show. And I think that I ask myself, why am I doing it a lot? Because sometimes I get really, I fall backwards a little bit and I go into a bit of a lull, like, why are you doing this? Because I'll find myself waking up after a 7-run night just going, oh, God, like back in it. And I think, why are you doing it? And then I go to a show and I do a show and someone will walk over to me afterwards and say, wow, this is so good to hear this, to see what you've done. Like, this has really helped me, or this is what my mum's going through, or this is what someone they know, or they've gone through it themselves. And it's like, they feel like they can also move forward. So then I realize why I'm doing it. I think, yes, I'm doing it because it's affecting people in positive ways. It's moving people. So I stick at it.
But what was it that actually happened? What was the catalyst?
What happened in the marriage?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was my second marriage and my longest marriage. So it was a 23-year partnership with my best friend. And we did everything together. And the last thing that we did, which was our joint dream, was to open a music school in this beautiful little mountain part, rural area in Australia. And we had we had so many kids. We had more than 200 kids and families coming to the school every week. And we were absolute mentors in this community. And we never had our own children. And we got very close to a lot of the kids, watched them grow up. The school was working for more than 18 years. So we watched kids grow up. They'd come in strollers, and then they'd be driving in their cars. So one of these kids we got very close to, and she became our goddaughter, and she moved in with us towards the end of her school life. And to my horror, my husband and this young girl that was like my daughter started sleeping together at my home while I was there. I think. I don't know because I never caught them in the act. But yeah, so it was a bit of a Woody Allen. Here I am choking on my words, but it was double betrayal in a huge way, in a huge, huge, huge way. So that was the catalyst, and I knew that the marriage was over at that point when he finally told me the truth. So I'm like, okay, I've got to move on.
I can't get my head around it. I mean, infidelity is always a challenge, but this is like the worst kind of infidelity, isn't it? It's just
Yeah.
awful, just so
Yeah,
awful.
it was absolutely so out of character and very strange to see it unfolding. I knew something was unfolding, and that she was really she adored him and looked up to him like a father. And I think it was for him. It was maybe I don't know. I don't know what happens to people to men in midlife. I mean, they say that women go into menopause and that you know that all this crazy stuff happens to us. But what happens to men? What makes them think that it's what made him think that I shouldn't generalize, but what made him think that it was okay to take that step after knowing someone since they were only 8 or 7 years old, to take that step to actually think it was okay to then sleep with them. And now they have a family. They have 5 kids.
Oh
5.
my goodness.
Yeah. So, you know,
Oh
it's
wow. And I've heard you talk about that you tried for children as well. So that's
we tried
doubly painful,
really,
isn't
really
it?
for years. We tried, and that's all part of the show where I reveal why I didn't fall pregnant, and you know, and it was at the time it was because of something that was happening with him. It wasn't me. We went and had all the tests done, and then he got his thing fixed, and then bang, he gets someone else pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like every time it was like this sense of, ooh, someone stabbing me every time I would hear that they were having another child. But I did remove myself from the situation, and um, I don't know, I feel unaffected now, but it was a pretty hard thing to go through.
And you've turned it into this musical show, which is clearly, I haven't been able to see it yet, and I'm really frustrated. So I know you're coming back, and you're going to be in London, I think, in Camden, aren't you, at some
Yes,
stage
I
this
am.
year?
Yeah.
I'm really hoping to catch the show then.
Oh, yes, you
Um,
have to.
yeah, but yeah, just I'm in awe, really. I mean, I'm really in awe because you've taken something so awful and you've created something incredible. And I know from the reviews and the feedback you've had that this is really touching people. So but how do you do it night after night? How do you keep doing it? And don't you ever just you talked about having come off 7 nights and you're like, oh goodness, don't you ever just want to go, okay, I'm leaving this all behind now, I'm moving on and I'm leaving it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting and very important question to raise, because a lot of people when they see me do the show will say, "Are you okay?" and have you done therapy? Because they feel like I'm still in it when they hear certain things about what I went through. But a lot of the time, I feel like I'm telling somebody else's story. So I've got to that point with it where, yeah, I can detach, and I absolutely love doing it. It's really fun. It's fun because it's not just about the shockingness of what happened and me like, oh, it's not that. It's got a lot of different emotions in it. There's people laugh and people cry, and it's really in 3 acts. So it's not all about the main catalyst, that point. It's really about life and love and what truly can happen in life, and you can see the comedy in that as well. Like when you've stepped back and you've got years, the distance of years, you can really you can see so clearly than when you're in the midst of something. When you're going through it, it's so much harder. And people say to you, oh, the passage of time, you'll be okay, but you just think you'll never be
You'll
okay.
never be okay.
You'll never
That's
be
like
okay.
when people say, oh, time will, if you lose somebody to death, and people say you'll get, time is a great healer. Well, it's not, is it? Time doesn't make it go away. Time just, I don't know, it seems to make it bearable,
It
maybe.
makes it bearable. It never goes away. And that experience for me is something that I feel I'll carry that with me. I'm finding it difficult to go into another relationship, and it's probably been 10 years almost since this happened. But I'm finding that really difficult, because I don't know if I ever want to allow that to be vulnerable again with another human. And so it's like this sense of it doesn't go away. There's always something there that you carry with you, like you carry that partner if they've passed away, or you carry the experience. But for me, putting the experience on the stage has been, I don't know, like a, a little bit of an unexpected, I don't want to say reward, but I'm going to say that it's something that I've been able to do with this that I totally didn't expect it. Sometimes I joke and I say, oh, yeah, this is a great divorce. Oh, yeah, keep going. Oh, what a great idea. This is going to make a brilliant show. Oh, good on you, mate. Yes, yes, go on, do it. Yeah. No, it wasn't like that at all.
I just recently read Maggie Smith's divorce memoir, and
Oh,
I was really struck by that. In that she writes about how a friend of hers says, "Well, thank goodness." I can't remember the word she used. It's not. Maybe it might be acrimonious, but if it isn't, it's sort of vaguely around that. So she says, "Well, thank goodness such an acrimonious divorce wasn't wasted on someone who couldn't write." And I thought, how
that is
perfect.
fantastic.
Isn't that fantastic?
Yeah, that's
And
great.
the same could be said of you, that thank weirdly, I hope I'm not being insulting here, but you know, this
Exactly.
experience has been on somebody who can take it and turn it into something creative, and really sort of almost set light to it so that it flowers into something else. I just it
Yeah,
is, because so many people would have crumbled. They would have crumbled, and you
yeah,
haven't. You've flowered.
yeah.
You've
Yeah, no,
blossomed.
that is a great, I'm going to read that too, that Maggie Smith, because that is a really great, sums it up, that yes, it was really acrimonious, and all of that experience was not wasted. And I pity whoever comes into my life, because they'll end up getting songs and stories written about them. Be careful.
I know. I have to say, when I read this book, I thought, "Oh, is she going to struggle to meet somebody else because they're going to be worried about what she might
Yeah,
write
what's she going to
about
write?
them?"
What's she going to
Yeah,
say?
yeah,
I did actually meet somebody. It's part of the show. It's towards the end when I came, because I moved to New York. Like
yeah.
that
I
was like a
know that's
huge,
going to be one of my questions. Yeah.
yeah. But I met this much younger guy, which was such a coincidence, like 23 years younger to be precise.
Hmm.
And we've stayed really great friends, but we had this incredible affair, like, well, not affair because nobody else was being hurt. We had this amazing time together, and I've got so many songs about that time. It's another show because I was experiencing life in New York with a young guy who was living a single life, and I'd been in a monogamous, can't say it, life and marriage for 23 years.
Hmm.
That, to me, this was like a whole new experience that I was really grateful for it. I was like, wow, I'm
Hmm.
so willing to be free and just completely go with this new kind of paradigm of a way of relating to a human, of not trying to own them, and to allow him his freedom and me the older woman. And so I'm like, oh, this is another show. And he's like, have you written more songs? I'm like, yeah, there's all these songs. all these stories. And anyway, so yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I can't wait to see that one too.
Yeah, so repeat, just back to when you asked about doing the show. I recently, earlier in the year, I was in Adelaide, and I thought this year, 2025, would probably be the last year that I should end the show, because why should I keep doing it and putting on this wedding dress that really is my wedding dress and keeping myself able to do it up? It's a challenge. And in Adelaide, I was advised by this fabulous woman that produced my show down there. She said, "You can't stop doing this show." She said, "I'm really sorry to say." She said, "But as you're touring and playing in festivals around the world, you have to keep coming back, and you've got to keep coming back with the same show for at least 5 years." She said, "Because that's how it grows, and that's how you get full houses." And she said she's been doing hers since 2018. I went, "Oh my God," because I was ready to she said, "No, you've got to repeat." She said, "You're coming back in 2026. I'm getting you another room. You're coming back." I'm like, wow, okay. And so what she said to me was, "You just write your next show while you're doing this show." So, so that's what I'll plan on doing next, is maybe working on this next show. And then, yeah, she runs 2 shows at once in the festivals. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's still going to go on. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to
Good.
go on.
How
I'm going back to
interesting. So
Edinburgh.
5 years, eh? 5 years.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how the dress is going to hold up either, because it rips all the time, like
I
the
bet. I was
soft
wondering that because
silk.
you've worn it so many times now. I would say to the
Yeah.
listeners, it's no longer white, is it? You've dyed it black.
I dyed it black, and of course that compromised the structure of the silk on the top.
Yeah.
Um, and it's a really fabulous dress, but a lot of my friends back in Australia are like, "Oh God, when are you going to burn that thing?" And I'm like, I think one day I'll have to do it, on stage, or do an outdoor performance where I can burn it in front of everyone, because
Oh, that would be good.
I get out of it halfway through the show and get into a new outfit. But yeah, it's really funny. I can't believe I've worn that wedding dress so many times.
Yeah.
It's absolute. It won't. It's
I
bizarre.
bet he never realised that, did he? He never realised that
No,
he'd get so
no,
much wear out of that
I don't.
wedding
I don't.
dress.
So much. It should go in the Guinness Book of Records when I'm
Yeah.
finished. The most worn wedding dress.
Yeah.
Right? To
Yeah.
become my faithful friend, I call it Esmeralda. Show
Esmeralda.
as I take it off. Thank you, Esmeralda. You go over there.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's hilarious. Big rips and gaffer tape, and it's just anyway. I miss
Wow.
Havisham.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah.
There's one thing that also popped out while I was, researching you and your life. You talked about having had 7 years of celibacy before you entered this relationship. So what was that about? What was going on?
I think I need to write a memoir, actually,
I think
because
you
I don't
do. I
always
do. I
think.
think you do.
I'd
Yeah.
love to. So I was a member of Raja Yoga meditation, and I joined that group in Sydney in the very early 80s, after my first marriage, which was really tumultuous. That's another whole story. And then another relationship after that marriage, and I thought, I am not meant for relationships. And I wanted to I wanted to meditate. So I went to this center and I learnt, and then I loved that feeling of getting lost and being so internal, because I love being on the stage, and I'm always the person that makes everyone laugh at parties. I'm a Leo and I'm out there. So to have that meditation and learn to go inside myself was like a complete refuge and balance from the rest of my life. And so I got really into it, and it also brought with it a group of people, like another family, because I don't want to say it was a cult, because it's not a cult. It's recognized as a legitimate religion, so to speak, by the United Nations. But I followed all of their principles, and one of them was celibacy, vegetarianism, no onion and garlic, um, Men and women were separated in the meditation halls. And at the time, I was living that very devout lifestyle, but I was a musician in a band. So I was, in the mornings at 4 a.m., I was wearing a white sari. But a few hours prior to that, I was in docks and long knee-high socks and tiny short black skirts jumping around on stage, you know. So it was a really interesting parallel to have in my life, and I got deeply involved in that for the 7 years and felt it taught me that I could be on my own and that I could be very content without an intimate relationship. And it was a wonderful, incredible part. And I still meditate. I don't practice all of those principles anymore, but I never stop meditating. So I do that every day. It's like an incredible tool. I will say to anyone that's listening, it's such a great tool to have in your life, when just for daily. But I mean, when something intense is going on, when there's death around or divorce or whatever it is, stress, it's just the best tool to have. So it's my thing. It's what I do when I wake up every morning, and it's what I do before I go to sleep at night. So yeah, so that's a part of it. So when I met this guy, I was in that lifestyle and I was in a band, and he joined my band. And so going into relationship with him, it was like crossing over another threshold, from all of a sudden going from being celibate and like a virgin, as Madonna said back then, into relationship again. It was a big decision, and it was worthy. It was a worthwhile decision to make, because we did have an incredible, beautiful life together for many years.
What an interesting life you've had. I think
Well,
this.
before that, I'll just quickly tell you, before that, I was married to a man who was 17 years older, that was living in London and came back to Australia. And he was a clothing designer, and he had a shop called Dandy Fashions on the King's Road, and he was part of Apple Tailoring. So he made all the clothes for the Beatles. He designed the Sgt. Pepper's outfits. He was an absolute amazing human, and he'd come back to Australia wrecked after all the years of hanging out with people like John Lennon, and Jimi Hendrix, everyone bought their clothes in John's store. So I ended up married to him, which was like really crazy.
So how did you meet him?
I just met him in Australia. He'd come back. He was living in rural New South Wales. And for people that are listening that might know Byron Bay area, it was up that way, but inland in the rainforest, hidden away where no one could find you. And he was growing marijuana out there, fending off the foxes with his shotgun or whatever. And he was Australian, but he was very much like this to me. I was only 18 or 19 when I met him. To me, this young girl, he was this gentleman standing at the gate. My friend had driven me there, an older girlfriend of mine. We were up there having a holiday together, and she knew this guy. His name was John. She knew his partner that was living on the farm. He's a mate. He was not married, and she'd gone to see this mate, and she'd taken me. And John opened the gates with jodhpurs, a hat, a beautiful white shirt, I can remember it clearly, tucked in sort of to the jodhpurs, leaning on a shotgun. Come in, my dears. And I was like, who is this man? He was just like this magnetic character. Anyway, that's how we met. And I was just a very innocent young girl, also from a country town on the north coast of Australia. And but I was living in Sydney then. So that's how we met, and he looked me up and came to Sydney and found me, and we had a tumultuous, because he had already lived such a life, and he had a lot of issues with drugs and alcohol, and so that's why I say it was tumultuous. But that could be another little story, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
delve into that one too much in this show, but
There's 3 books there at least
Yeah,
on that.
yeah.
Not just one memoir.
No, there's a few things. I wish I could write. I wish I could find myself a good ghostwriter. Anyone out there?
Well, you are a writer. I'm sorry, I'm going to correct you on that because if you're writing songs,
I am.
you're a writer.
I
You
am.
know, yeah,
Yeah.
you can just do the songs and then
Yeah.
turn
Well,
them
I
into a
mean, the
book.
show
And
that
you've already got a book, haven't you?
I've got a book. All These Pretty Things is a book, and the stories I wrote, and of course, with the help of my great editor, Tessa Suter, who's herself from London. And as the time has gone on with this show, she's become a co-writer as well. But so I do have someone on my team that's helped me out with that. But yeah, I actually love writing. It's a amazing. I mean, not songwriting, but memoir writing. It's so cathartic. It's so amazing just losing yourself in writing.
Yes.
A
Yeah.
whole other world. I envy writers. I think,
Mm.
wow, I know why you write novels. It's just a great world to live in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
So tell us about the book that you did with the show because you're also a photographer, aren't you? Since you arrived in New York.
Yes, strangely enough, I am. The book I did is it was really an idea to not just release music. It was before it became a show. I wanted to record the music. So in the pandemic, I got together in New York with great musicians and recorded the songs. And then I have a girlfriend here, Nachi. She's an artist and a songwriter herself too, and she's an illustrator. And she went, "Oh, why don't you put um, illustrations with your music, and you're writing stories as well. You've got such great stories." And so it evolved like that, that what I would do would be not release something on Spotify that's just a downloadable music thing, because it's impossible to compete in that world. It's just like, oh God, I'm going to release some music. Where will it go? I don't know, to my 30 family members and maybe 10 other friends. So it's a really hard world. So we went, let's put it into a book, a hardcover book. And so then I invited 10 different artists, all from Australia. And I really wanted to use Australian artists because I am Australian and I'm connected with a lot of visual artists. So I thought and they went through this with me. A lot of them knew what I was going through. And so I proposed that to 10 different people, and they took a story and took a song and listened to it and drew what they saw in those words and in those songs. So the book, it's a really beautiful little hardcover book. So it's got gorgeous artwork, and then the stories are all printed up, and so CDs in the back. So it became a different product, that if somebody wants to listen to the music and hear the story, they've actually got something in their hands that they can turn and smell and feel.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And how did you pluck up the courage to move to New York? And you basically started again, didn't you?
I started again completely. I I went to New York really because my sister talked me into getting out of my place in Australia. She said, you've got to. I'm going away. Why don't you come?" And I went, "Ooh." She goes, "Go on, you've got to stop it. You're in bed all day. Like, get up, come on, do something. You just can barely function.
Hmm.
You can barely get out of bed and run your business and all of that when this is happening." And she said, "Come on, let's do something out of the box." So I went with her. I actually didn't go with her. I met her in America, but I took a trip by myself, and um, I went to Vancouver first, and I had a show there. A girlfriend of mine said, "Come and see me, and I'll put on a show where you can play." And I did this concert just on my own, and it was the first time I'd played without him as well. Like, oh wow, how liberating! And then I ended up with my sister in New York for a few days, and I had one friend in New York, a guitarist who was in my band in Sydney, and he'd introduced me to the ex. So I met up with him, and he took me out.
So
He
he
said,
owed you. He owed
he
you
owed
big
me. I said,
time.
I'm going to call him up. And I called him up, and he took me out to a couple of really cool venues in New York, and I had no idea that this was going on. And I saw people play this close to my face. I was like, oh my God, these are people that I'd been listening to on albums and jazz musicians. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I thought, I have to come back. So that was my introduction. It was only 4 days. And I went back to Oz, and then another friend back here, another great two musicians that were living in Nashville said, come back. People were really, it was people that pushed me and that supported me. And on the second trip back, I went to Nashville and started writing. Some of the songs that are in the show are co-writes with a Nashville songwriter. I came back, did that, and then went to New York again for 7 days on my own this time. And that's when I met the younger guy. And that was so exciting and exhilarating. I just want to say that I could allow myself to I can say this on the podcast, to have what I thought was going to be a one-night stand with someone that turned into a 10-year friendship so far. That was so exhilarating that kept me coming back to New York, to tell you the truth. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going back again. And then like more, but doors opened. Like it wasn't just him. People, opportunities came up, like to come and stay in New York for free for a month. Someone gave me their apartment. Then I met another person that was a mentor, an amazing piano player, Chano Dominguez, who lives in Spain. He was living in New York, and we became good friends. And he was like, come and look after my piano. And I kept on coming back. I'm like, oh my God, I'm meant to go back to New York. And then that's basically what happened. It was like this incredible fuel. Someone was putting fuel into my tank so that I could, it was like I was riding in a race car. I'm like, oh, I've got to go back to New York. I'm going back. It was exhilarating. It was like I had my foot on the accelerator, and I was like, yeah, go back. And then I got a visa to live here, an artist visa, which I couldn't believe I got. Because you're in midlife, right?
Yeah.
And you think, am I washed up? How do you start again? Like, how do you do this again? Nobody's going to they're not going to give me a visa. They're not going to, what am I? And I got these things, even though my head was saying, is this possible in your 50s? To just go and not know anyone, but it is. Yeah. It's incredible.
And you made it happen. I've got goosebumps actually just listening to you say that. I think it's so powerful, what you did and how you embraced what was given to you. You took the crap and you dealt with that in your own personal way. But then you've also taken the gifts that you've been given, and you've run with them, haven't you? You've run with them.
Yeah, I've run with them. I went, oh well, I'll just keep going. I'll just keep going. I mean, it wasn't very good on the environment, the amount of times I flew backwards and forwards from Australia. And my father was still alive at the time, and he was like, what are you doing? Who do you think you are? What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, Dad. I can't help it. I just have to. I took off 1 year at Christmas, and my dad was like, oh, you're going to be on your own at Christmas. I'm like, yeah, but these are things I just need to do. I need to just go and sit in a place where I feel this intense, like no support around me. Even though I had the support of friends and things, but sometimes I'd come without I didn't know what would await me sometimes. And it was the sense of the unknown, like flying into an abyss and thinking, how can I do this alone? But I learned that, like, to sit in a hotel room by myself and feel really sad was okay. It was like it was part of it. It was like, oh, I don't know anyone. Or to be at an airport on my own after being always with my husband, all those things. It was like it'd stir up all this stuff in my stomach. But I'd know that I have to do it. Do it. There's something waiting for you. There's something, it's, you can just stay in bed, or you can jump.
Live. You can live.
Yeah. So
And that's what you've done, haven't you? You've really lived. You haven't existed. And
yeah,
I'm always talking on this podcast about, we get to midlife and we can either put up with the status quo or we can make something of our lives.
yeah,
And you were forced into that situation. But my goodness, it's like you've been powered with rocket fuel. You've
yeah,
just taken off.
yes, yes. And I can't believe how much I've been traveling around with the show, and just how much fun that is, and
Yeah.
I'm meeting up with all my old friends that I've known for years that live in different parts of Europe and in the UK. And it's like, what I've learnt, the biggest lesson, I think, is that even though I'm not remarried, I'm not in a relationship, but what I've learnt is that I'm not alone, and that there's this huge, in the world, there's this network of people, and everybody experiences things in their own way that are different or similar to what we're all going through, and you're connected wherever you go. And I find that incredibly humbling, that I felt like the world wrapped me, put its arms around me. Does that sound really esoteric and all that universal speak? But I felt like when I get to England, all of a sudden there I am. I haven't been in England for whatever 30 years prior, but there I was, and I felt like I was home.
Hmm.
Everywhere I go, that's what it is. I have this little sense of home, and it's because of, I think it's meditation has a lot to do with it, but it's because of where you sit inside your own head and inside your own body that you can go out into the world and embrace it. Mm.
It's beautifully powerful, it really is. But
Mm.
what I'm hearing is that you you never really were, well, you certainly had a life where you weren't defined by your partnership. But now you truly are not defined by your partnership. You are defined by you as
Mm.
an individual. And
Mm.
that doesn't scare you. That doesn't, that is an empowering place to be.
It is. And I was very, very grateful to be able to move out of that relationship, even though at the time I would have done anything to save it. But I realized once I was free that I was not an individual in my marriage, that I was defined by the couple consciousness, and that I didn't realize how much of a lid was on me. I had no idea when I was in that I was actually being squashed somehow in every aspect of my life, everything. And to sense that the pain of that ending, when I didn't want it to end, was like the box opening and me flying out of it and going, here's the world that I've not been allowed to see. It's really strange, because I'm sure he would totally disagree if he heard me say that I was free to do and be whoever I wanted. But there is a sense, an unconscious sense of, I allowed that to happen. I mean, I just allowed that to happen, and I won't do that again.
I think that's what a lot of women do. We limit ourselves. We abdicate sometimes to the other person. We allow their needs and wants to take the dominant place in what should be a partnership but perhaps isn't, and we go along with that willingly. I think a lot of women do that. But I'm always saying, I think that's one of the gifts of menopause. We've got less of the biddable estrogen in running around our veins. We're more likely to go, I'm not having that anymore. I'll go off and do what I want to do now. But it's like the blinkers come off.
Yeah.
It's the blinkers come off, and we see the world differently. And I think that can be very powerful, and it can be very scary for ourselves and for the people around us sometimes.
Yeah.
But I'm loving hearing your journey, and I just think it's amazing. I really do. And as I said at the beginning, I'm in awe of what you've achieved. So perhaps you could just tell us what would you most like people to know?
I think that I would most like people to know that when you go through something like this, it really is for a larger reason. And my biggest take home from my divorce was that, karmically speaking, I couldn't stand in the way of what was happening in my marriage, because for him to meet and have this relationship with her was their karma, and it had nothing to do with me. Nothing to do with me. I was the bystander who was copying it from either side, but it was their collision that had to happen, and I could not stand in the way of it. And that I could look at that from that perspective as an outsider looking in, and even during the painful time I could see it that way. And also that what he did to me, it wasn't right and it wasn't kind, but that I like to use the word forgiveness, because it's to get to a place of being able to forgive and not hold, to not be a woman walking through the world with resentment for men, but to be able to let whatever situation happened to you, to be able to let it go and understand that what they did doesn't make anything right, but it will set you free, so that you're not walking through the rest of the world with a sense of, I'm seeking revenge. That will just hold you in that place. So that really was my biggest take home. And I was so happy in Adelaide, because I got a review from someone, a man who came to my show, and in the first paragraph he says, I'm going to a one-woman show about divorce. Here we go, it's going to be a revenge. And he said it's absolutely nowhere near, nothing to do with revenge. It's a show about human spirit. And so that's what I think is really important, is that to allow whatever comes your way, when it's, because we're talking about divorce in this interview, right? So whatever happens, it's for a higher purpose, and to be able to accept whatever that person's done, and accept your new life and move through it without carrying a grudge.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Magnificent Midlife podcast. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, follow, and share it. Also, giving a 5-star review really helps get the word out. You'll find the show notes at magnificentmidlife.com. That's also where you can get my book, Magnificent Midlife, Transform Your Middle Years, Menopause and Beyond. Make the very best of your next chapter. Help me change the world, one magnificent midlife woman at a time.